Hi, welcome to my channel and to my kitchen, I guess. Today's going to be a completely different video from what I normally do on my channel. This is just going to be like cooking. Usually I only do makeup, beauty, fashion sort of content, but it's my sister's birthday on Tuesday. It's currently Sunday, and I usually make the cakes around here. I'm not the best baker, but I'm okay at baking, I would say. And I like to make quite fun cakes. I mean, before in the past I've made my husband an Xbox One controller as a cake. Was it Xbox One or was it just a 360 controller? Some sort of Xbox controller I've made. Last year I made my sister an abysmal, really bad flamingo cake. It looked like a chicken breast on top of a white cake. It just looked terrible. But she liked it because it was kind of like funny, and I was going to try and redeem myself this year with a better flamingo cake, but I couldn't really think of a better way to do it. And then I thought I had the idea of doing like a cursed flamingo cake, so like instead of having flamingo legs, it would have like human legs. But I'm not skilled enough for that. So my sister loves Sims, I love Sims, so I'm going to be making a Plumbob cake. If you don't know what a Plumbob is, I'll put it on the screen right here. That's a Plumbob. But yeah, so I'm going to be making that for her today. Probably going to take me a while, and I'm filming this at 11 o'clock at night, so it's going to be a late one, and I'm probably just going to do all the decorating tomorrow because it needs to cool down and things like that. But yeah, I'm going to be making everything from scratch. I don't follow recipes. I essentially like weigh the eggs and then I kind of follow everything else along the same measurement. So I don't really have a recipe, but I'll kind of put like a standard recipe for like a plain vanilla sponge in the description if you want to, I don't know, make this yourself. But yeah, I'm running out of the butter, the stalk butter, which is really good for cakes, so I'm going to be putting in some flora instead. I don't think you should use self-raising flour, but I still do, and I'm also going to be putting a tiny bit of baking powder in there as well. Some free-range eggs, caster sugar, got my bowl, got my scales. The lighting's going to be different, so in a minute I'm going to be really dark because I'm going to be turning on this light, which I love this light. After my vlog a couple weeks ago, I kind of realised how bad the lighting was in this kitchen, and I mean I knew it was anyway, but like when I'm stood here, my shadow blocks the full thing of what I need to do, so it's really hard for me when cooking anyway, and I just like those lights, so I bought some off Amazon and put them in, and it really helped me. So I'm going to have these lights on whilst I'm like doing things, but if I'm going to be like sat talking like this, I'm going to have the lights turned off. So let's get to it. When I'm weighing the eggs, I literally put a cup inside the scales and turn this down to 0, and I usually go for about 3 eggs. So I take the cup out. I might go for 4 eggs because I don't know how big this cake is going to be. Yeah, I'm going to go for 4 eggs actually, just decided. Changed my mind. And then weigh the eggs from here. Okay, so that's about 200 grams of eggs. So I do 200 grams of butter, 200 grams of sugar, 200 grams of flour. I basically make it as equal as possible, and I don't know where I heard it, but apparently that's the best way to get like a really moist cake. And so far it hasn't let me down, so don't know where I heard that, but I did. And the eggs just get set aside for now. I don't touch them for now. Okay, so the eggs are slightly over 200, so I'm just going slightly over for everything. My oven is also preheating to 190 degrees C. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Probably like 400 degrees, I don't know. And then you just blend all of this together. You can use a whisk for this, but I did prefer a spoon. It's too late at night for a whisk at the moment anyway, so whatever. Just takes a bit longer doing it with a spoon. You kind of want to mix it until it's kind of like light and fluffy. This is about as much as I tend to do, but you can get it a lot lighter. Like literally the colour goes quite white whenever you do it. That's about as much as I'm going to do because I personally don't think it matters how much you make it like light and fluffy. For the flour, I think you should really take plain flour, but I have self-raising, so that's just going to have to do. And then I'm just going to take like a little bit of self-raising flour. No, not self-raising flour. Baking powder. And I usually would sift the flour, but I've just used the sifter to like strain oil, and I'm too lazy to clean, so I'm not going to bother sifting it. Oh, actually, eggs first. Eggs first. Try to add eggs like little by little, so I kind of do half now and then half later on. If you add them too quickly, or if you're too aggressive with it, like I'd recommend doing this by hand, because if you add them in too aggressively, then the mixture can split. But honestly, again, it's not the end of the world if it does split. It still comes out the same when you cook it, it just doesn't look that nice in the bowl. Right now is when you'd put the vanilla extract in as well. I don't really know how much I generally put in. I kind of put in like 2 caps full, but I don't know if that's like enough or if that's too much. And honestly, I don't think you really taste it that much anyway, so what's the point? Lightly mix that in. Okay, there's still some lumps of butter in here, but I'm really not caring about it. And like I said, I would usually sift this in, but I'm not going to today. I'm just going to put in half the mixture, or roughly half the mixture now, fold it in. You don't want to overwork this, because if you do that you can gluttonize the flour, and then that makes it like too really like chewy. Okay, and then from here I'm just going to put in the rest of the flour. And then lastly, I like to add in just a little bit of milk, like a tablespoon worth of milk. I'll put in a bit extra just for good luck. Just to loosen the mixture up a little bit. And I find it makes the cake a little bit lighter. You don't need to do that, it's just up to you. I'd recommend doing that though if you're making like a chocolate cake and you put in cocoa powder. I'd recommend putting a bit of milk in just to loosen it up a little bit more, because obviously that's extra powder ingredients you're putting in there. Lovely. Now I'm just taking like a long baking tray. So this one is 33 centimeters by 23 centimeters and about 5.1 centimeters deep. So it's a decent tray because I'm going to be like filling the full bottom of it, cutting it in half, and then stacking them, and then cutting it in the shape of the Plumbob. That's my plan. Okay, you can grease the pan if you want to. I normally do if I'm using a circle tin, but with this one you don't really need to. I'm just going to shove this all in here. I'm just going to spread that out at the back of my spoon very lightly, and this should rise enough. But this is why I want to stack it, otherwise it would just be like a really flat, like disappointing cake. Okay, so that's the cake done. It's literally like only a couple millimeters thick, but that's again why I want to stack it. I'm going to shove that into the oven because it's very thin. I'm going to check on it after about 10 minutes. This cake mix doesn't take long at all to cook. I think the maximum I've ever cooked it is 20 minutes, and that's because it's quite a thick layer. But I'm going to cook this for maybe about 10 minutes, come in and check it with like sticking a knife into it. Seeing if it comes out clean. If it does, I'll take it out right then and there. If it doesn't come out clean, I'm going to leave it for like a couple more minutes, and then yeah, I'll be back with the results of that. Okay, the cake is out of the oven now. That took about 20 minutes or so for that to be cooked. I stuck a little knife in it here. Can you see? Oh, it's fogging up the lens. That was a bad idea. Give me a second while this defogs. Yeah, so you can see there, like there's a little right there. There's like a little knife mark where I just put my knife in it. It came out completely clean, so that it's like cooked, all done. I'm gonna leave this to cool inside the tin for about 20 minutes, half an hour, then take it out, and then I'll kind of just leave it until it's fully cooled down before I start decorating. Okay, ignore the noise in the background. I didn't plan on doing a 3 stack, but I kind of can. So I think what I might do is have like this in the middle and then have the other 2 like sandwiched to keep this together. So like that, so that way at least it's kind of like clean, like it looks nice, and the majority of it's hidden underneath, in the middle. And I think that would give it a lot of structure as well doing that. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Because why not? I don't want to waste a load of cake if I could just do that. That worked out perfectly actually. And then me and my husband will just eat these bits. So yeah, it's not like the most even diamond shape, like it's a little bit wonky definitely, but I can maybe like, I don't know, sort that out a little bit when I'm icing and decorating and things like that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't need to be perfect, so I'm really not too fussed if it is or not. But yeah, so I think I'm going to leave this overnight because I can't be bothered doing this right now. Leave it overnight and then come back later on to like decorate it and stuff, make the icing as well. Okay, I got bored, so I'm going to make the icing now and then like kind of ice it like it is right now, and then I'm going to put that in the fridge overnight to like do its thing. So it's actually really easy to make your own butter icing. You just need unsalted butter, or you can use salted if you want to, but I prefer unsalted, and icing sugar. And it's basically like you use half the amount of butter as you do icing sugar. So I have 250 grams of butter here, so I'd use 500 grams of icing sugar. I'm going to be using the full thing, although I don't really think it's going to be needed, but I'd rather have too much than too little. And I'm just going to measure out 500 grams of icing sugar. Oh, that's the full tub. I think I've made too much. I think I'm definitely going to be making far too much. But that's fine, I'll just save it and then I'll make like another cake later on. I don't know. You should really sift out icing sugar, but again, my sift is dirty and I can't be arsed cleaning it. Like, I'm surprised I even cleaned the bowl and the measuring thing, so. And for this I have got an electric whisk, because am I hell mixing and blending all of this together. Just because icing sugar gets literally everywhere, I'm just going to like lightly mix it in without spinning it, and then I'm going to slowly go up. This is a little thick, so I'm going to add like a splash of milk. That's still so thick. I've never made it this thick before. It tastes so good though. Yeah, it's never been this thick before. I don't know why it's so thick, but I don't want to keep adding milk into it. That's going to be almost impossible to spread over a cake. I think the issue might be that I'm whisking it even more and more and more and more and more. So it's getting thicker the more I whisk it, but I'm whisking more milk into it. So I'm going to stop with the whisking for now, and just start icing, I think. So I'm going to put this on like a Tupperware lid. I haven't got like a cake tray, which is kind of annoying. So to try and stop the cake from like sliding around, I'm going to put like a little dollop of icing at the bottom. And that's going to kind of act like a glue. Okay, and then you just pick up the cake and push that on and press down. And that's kind of like a bit more secured. Once it's actually set, it'll be a lot more secured than what it looks like now. Right, big dollop. Be generous with the icing, because no one wants to have like a tiny layer of icing in the centre. And also the cake, I haven't leveled the cake because there's not really much point. It's not going to be, I don't want like a perfectly level cake anyway because it's a Plumbob, so really it is kind of 3D anyway. But also I'm just terrible at leveling cakes. I want one of those tools that like levels them for you, but I don't have like enough need for them. And then just putting these next pieces on. And when I put that on, I'm just going to press down slightly as well, just to kind of like stick it on there, because this is obviously like not one solid piece. And then I'm going to really focus the icing right in the middle here to try and like level that out a little bit. I'm going to be really, really careful with this layer and like try and just hold everything together. And then the last bit, this corner here I'm quite worried about because that's gonna like die. Is this really wonky? Yeah, this is super wonky. That's fine, let's just press that down. This is technically going to be the crumb coat layer, but I don't really know how to do like a thin layer. So this is just going to be like the top, and plus I'm covering this in fondant icing later anyway. Putting it on the sides, my mum actually kind of taught me this. If you put it on and then just like lightly go back and forth, don't try and spread it because then you will like kind of ruin it. If you lightly kind of just feather it back and forth like this, you spread it nice and evenly, and then you can kind of pull it back or forward, just whatever, to really get like an even spread. I'm very impatient, so I tend to start doing that and then I don't carry on doing that. But that's just me. I'm just going to do the bottom first and then do the top. If there is anyone watching who's like an actual baker and like a cake decorator, because I know one of my best friends, she's done this in college. I'm aware I'm not doing things great. Like, if you know me, you know I'm not professional at this, you know I have no qualifications to do this. I just like doing it, and sometimes the cakes come out looking pretty cool. So sorry if you're cringing, and sorry if some of this advice isn't right, but see if it's not right, leave it in the comments below. That's too much icing. Let me know what isn't right and what is right, what I could do to improve, because oh, my arm is aching doing this. I don't know how people do it for a living. Right, so that's like the basic layer on, so we're just going to go around and like perfect it, add some more icing where it needs to be, I don't know, try and make it look decent. I mean, like I said, this is going to go underneath fondant icing, so it doesn't need to look perfect, but I still want it to look decent, you know. Okay, so I think this is it. It's mediocre at best. Let me get you like closer up. Okay, so like here's the general gist of it. There's some bits of cake here that I just can't really cover. But I mean, it's like fairly evenly iced, but when I come down here, you can see that it's really not even at all as a cake. Like, look at that. I really should have leveled this out, but I'm bad at doing that, so that's why I didn't. Yeah, this is what it's looking like from the top as well. It's not looking too great, but I'm gonna just let this sit in the fridge overnight, and then come back tomorrow and actually put the fondant icing on over and see if I can maybe like smooth things over then. I've still got quite a lot of icing left in here anyway, so if I need to, I'll just like re-level things out again, which I probably will need to, but it's as good as I can be bothered to do right now. Okay, so the cake's been setting for probably about 20 odd hours now. I've got some fondant icing which is ready to roll out. I did realise though that I used all of the icing sugar, which is what you usually use to stop this from sticking to surfaces and things. So I'm gonna have to like maybe use flour, which is not gonna be ideal. I've used flour before, obviously it's not the best thing to use for this sort of situation. I also need to dye this green. So what I'm thinking is I'm gonna try and use the fondant icing, and if that doesn't work, then I'm just gonna dye the rest of the butter icing that I've got green and then coat that. I'm just rolling this out to see if it's going to be like enough icing. today I've just got some Dr. Oetker food colouring. I'm not really caring either, by the way, if the colour's like completely mixed in, so like you probably might not be able to see it, but there's some parts where it's a bit more yellowy and some parts that are a bit more bluey. I don't really care about that because the Plumbob, like, it has different, depending on what version you're looking at, it has different tones throughout it, so I'm not really caring too much if the colour's like a flat, consistent colour. Okay, so I'm happy with this green. As I said, it's not like completely mixed in. There are definitely some more bluey bits, definitely some more yellowy bits, but I really don't care. I'm just going to completely roll this out and then try and move it on top of the cake. Okay, that's the hard bit done, but now I need to actually get this to fit properly. And this isn't going down to the sides, so this is fantastic. I just want to remind you at this point that I'm not a professional. I have actually no idea what I'm doing. I've done this a few times and it's never gone perfectly. So I'm aware that this is not going to look amazing. Don't come for me. Because I mean, look at that, that looks terrible. But it will taste nice. Just taking a cup of water and like my finger, like maybe on the back of my nail, just to try and like help this icing stick and blend in. My hands are clean, by the way, don't worry. This corner's never going to be great because the icing didn't really go down properly, so I think that's all that I'm going to be able to do for the like covering of fondant. And I just realised that on camera this doesn't really look green at all, but trust me, it is a lot more green. Let me turn on the light behind me actually. That's not made a single difference. But yeah, it definitely is a bit more green than what you're seeing on camera. The icing also still tastes fine, even though it's got flour in it, so. Right, I'm going to do some outlining and stuff. So I'm going to be using like the leftovers of this for some parts of it. I think anyway, I'm going to keep these parts safe anyway. And I was actually going to take like the rest, no, about half of this, because I'm not going to need all of it. And some black food colouring from Dr. Oetker. I'm aware I'm using a lot of black dye, like this bit of icing isn't going to taste nice, and I know that, but I want it to be like as black as I can possibly get it, because this is going to like outline the details of the Plumbob, so I want it to be like black, or maybe like just like a kind of medium grey, which is kind of what I'm getting to about here, so I'm probably going to stop after this, but I feel like if it's too light it's just going to look a bit dumb. Okay, so I'm not sure how much you missed, but I cut off my camera, stopped recording. I cut off like a load of strips with this little pizza cutter of icing, and I've measured them all out so that they kind of fit along the sides here. I've got a little cup of water, so I've run some water along the edge, placed the icing on top and pressed it down, and that's kind of glued it on. So I'm just going to keep doing that for all around the edges. So this I'm going to measure up perfectly. I'm going to make some changes once it's on and make it look a lot nicer and neater that way, but just for now, this will do. Okay, so that's it on. I'm just going to use this little knife to really carefully cut off any excess bits that just don't sit right. So these bits mainly. Those bits actually fit together really friggin' well, so I'm so happy about that. But just for these bits I'm just going to fix up a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to take some water on my finger and just kind of seal up those bits there. Okay, so just taken another strip of icing and I'm just trying to like layer it in. I don't want it to be like straight across, I want it to have like a bit of an angle so it kind of goes down, straight and then up again. That's kind of what a Plumbob looks like, so I'm just making sure I have enough space to do that, like enough icing to do that, which I do. Just gonna like really lightly mark it with a knife and then taking it on my finger again, bit of glue. And then finally I'm just gonna cut off those little edge bits here. Okay, now I'll need some other thin strips and these parts aren't particularly thin, so I'm just gonna like recut them. Right, I think these two bits are like quite close to the same thickness. They're not 100% perfect, but it doesn't really matter. So that should be fine. And I think I'm just going to cut them in half. Kind of like that, and I'll level it out in a sec, but that's going to be the gist of it. So this is the outline so far, and honestly I'm pretty freaking happy with it. The cake itself is pretty ratchet, but I mean, that's a given, but I'm pretty happy with it. Like, it looks okay, it looks kind of legit. Yeah, I really quite like it, to be honest. It's obviously so wonky, it's really bad, but I don't care. I kind of want to actually like cut this corner off and then re-ice that, or like with the fondant, because it's like the only corner that slopes round. The rest of them are pretty straight down. So I think I'm gonna try and do that, and this is probably gonna ruin the cake, but so I'm just gonna like open up this icing. I feel like I'm performing a surgery or something right now. I'm gonna get a spoon and just like scoop this bit out carefully. Most of this is icing. The majority of that was icing. That's good though, oh my god. And then I'm just gonna like bring this icing back down. Then we're gonna put these bits back together. Right, I think that's as good as that's gonna get. But I think that's actually made a difference to how the cake looks. I just wish it wasn't so wonky at the top, but who cares at this point? Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think that's probably as good as it's going to get, to be honest with you. I can maybe add in some like really thin strips of highlighty detail, but I don't really see what that's going to do. Actually, you know what? I'm going to try that. Okay, I think I'm happy with this, so let me just show you it up close. Okay, so this is the cake up close. Try and do a top-down view, but I'm short as fuck. Right, so there's kind of like a top-down view, so it's not the best. It's like, it is wonky. Like if I come down here, it's definitely wonky. The edges leave something to be desired, but you know what? I put my freaking heart and soul into this, and this is probably as good as it's gonna get. So I'm happy with it. I know my sister's gonna say, but I wanted a flamingo cake. Well, fuck off. You got a Plumbob cake to match your card, so shut the fuck up. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, and I'll try and record her reaction to it tomorrow when I see her for her birthday. On second thought, I added like a little trim around the bottom. It doesn't make it look any nicer, but I don't know, it makes it look like I actually tried. I'm well aware this is not the best cake. I'm not a baker. Clearly I'm not a baker. You know, like, it's just a bit of fun for my sister's birthday. And you know what? I gave it a shot. Who cares? It tastes nice. Who cares what it looks like? So yeah, that's the cake completely finished. And yeah, we'll see her reaction to this tomorrow.